Hello, everybody. Was just finishing up a fast lunch. Ugh.
Shut up! Bless God and get fruit!
Redstone!
Let the best design win.
Thank you for the 21 months. Appreciate it. Let's see here. How's everybody doing today? So, the winner will be determined based off of which vehicle is most capable and which fulfills the requirements. Okay. Yeah, the winner is going to be based off of, basically the most capable vehicle that still fulfills the requirements, so. One is way more capable than another, but one meets way more of the criteria. Well, one thing we're going to do is we're going to go through, the designs one by one, and we will check off essentially which fulfills the what requirements they fulfill, which ones they don't, etc. And again, we're going to determine like which of those that fits within the criteria is the best one. So if something fulfills the criteria, but is way less capable than another, it's not going to win. That other design will be better considered for adoption. But we'll see. Yeah, and there's not like a point system, basically. Like I'm not gonna go that deep into it just because it would require a lot more back end work, and I just don't really have the time for that. So we're just doing pros and cons, like which of these has the most pros over its cons. The bonus points are just gonna go towards helping you. Like those are aspects that, if they are utilized, are going to look much more favorably for adoption. The friends to Begada are going to be shown today. There's some interesting ones here. Because at the end of the day, the vehicle needs to be effective. How do you submit designs? Check the description below, Fire Knight. There's I tell you there how to submit designs. Now, granted, I'm not sure if you're going to have enough time to submit it, to design a vehicle and submit it to those requirements within the time period of the stream, but it's really just to get people's minds working and thinking of various requirements. Because we've got a lot of vehicles today. Make your vehicles with love. Yes. Love is an important part of designing a vehicle.
Shut up, bless God, and get fruitful. Woo!
Not Microsoft Office. Thank you for the Prime sub. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. So yeah, also the other announcements. September is going on right now, and I'm sure you guys have been told like that a million times on Twitch. But if you gift a sub right now to somebody else, it is half off. I don't believe subscribing in and of itself is 50% off, but gifting subs is half off. I find burning hatred a better building technique. Aw, that fucking sucks, Kerbal. Like they just broke into your house and took your shit? Man, that fucking sucked. Is there any way that you could, like, submit for, like, replacement of that stuff? Considering you were doing your country a service? Oh, they got into your truck. What a piece of shit. But yeah, is there any way that you can submit? Just want my stuff off it. Yeah, same way for me. I had my backpack stolen out of my car back in late 2019. And they stole my headphones, my laptop, and all of my schoolwork. I wasn't so pissed about losing the headphones and the laptop as I was pissed about losing all of my schoolwork, because I had to go to each one of my classes and essentially like get the teacher's notes for all of the stuff that I lost. It was such a pain in the ass. Luckily, I passed all my classes that semester, but that did not help my situation. You can get some value back from insurance, but not the entire value. That's bullshit. Honestly, you should be able to submit. You work for a contract? Oh, okay, you work for a contract firefighting company. You don't work for the government. Okay. I was going to say, if you work for the government, shouldn't you be able to submit for reimbursement of the items lost? But I don't know about contract. Yeah, and the worst part, about me getting broken into was the fact that I parked my car in an underground parking lot, so the place should be secured, and it's not, because like I've been broken into, my brother's been broken into, and our neighbors have been broken into, and they still don't install any sort of security cameras down there. It's insane. I mean, I understand installing there's a lot more that goes into installing a security camera. It's like, you've got to find a place to store all the data from the security camera, but at the same time, you would think that for the amount of money that a lot of people pay to live in, at least in the condos that I'm living in, that they would actually have some proper security down there, but they don't. The skis and got into the bush to find the skids. shithole you live in? I mean, I actually live in a really nice apartment complex. It's just they don't have any security down there. I'm not going to tell you where I live, because I know better. But, yeah, it's like, there's no cell service down in the parking lot. There's no security down there. The only thing they've got down there is the bare minimum, like, emergency phone button. Like, the emergency phone system. It's like, what the fuck? And they've had like, 5, 6, 7... break-ins, at least down there in my area, near where I park. Such a pain in the ass. They've got cameras everywhere else, but they don't have any cameras in the fucking parking lot. Ridiculous. Anyways, enough about my rambling. Let's get to testing some designs. Okay. So we're gonna do this first via sandbox. We're going to go through these vehicles one by one and check them out in the sandbox. Excuse me. And let me download one more here. Okay. Submissions are closed. Let me go ahead and archive this. Alright. Right, it's archived. I also went through the Sprocket channel and I downloaded as many as I could find. Okay. So, the base design that we started with here is the K64 T1 Dolphin. And let me go up and open the prompt. So this was the prompt, and the you guys can't see it, but I'm going to read off of it here. So, credit, first of all, for this idea goes to Catherine Cat. She was the one who proposed this idea and wrote out the prompt. So, full credit to her. I've changed a couple names around to make it more stream-friendly, but beyond that, this was mostly her idea, so you can thank her. Your beloved nation was recently conquered by the Sprocket Empire. As a tank designer, you've been granted asylum in the island nation of Shekelton, which is also at war with the Sprocket Empire. The military leaders of Shekelton are preparing an amphibious invasion to liberate your homeland. However, the K64 T1 Dolphin tanks Shekelton's armored forces possess are not suitable for amphibious operations, as they are too heavy for the current landing craft to carry and lack a dedicated radio operator. You've been asked to join the design team working on Shekelton's new amphibious tank project. And as you are a true patriot and long to see your homeland liberated, you accept and review the design specifications. Requirements. The tank must weigh less than 15 tons to be transported on the landing craft. The tank must have a dedicated radio operator to coordinate the assault off the beach. The tank must have a cannon greater than 74 millimeters and must carry at least 40 APHE rounds to suppress shore defenses and bunkers. The tank must be able to climb the first 3 slopes on the sandbox map to prove it is capable of making it up the beach. The tank must have wide tracks and enough road wheels to distribute its weight on soft and waterlogged sand. The tank must share, and finally, the tank must share 2 of the following parts with the K64 T1 Dolphin tank. The gun, the tracks, the engine, the transmission, hull, or the turret. Bonus points are to be awarded for a tank that weighs less than 10 tons, armor protection exceeding 30 millimeters all around the vehicle to protect it from artillery splinters, 3 or 4-man turret to maximize crew effectiveness, large fuel storage to facilitate fast-moving breakout operations after a foothold has been secured, main gun size exceeding 100 millimeters, using more than 2 common parts with the K64 T1 Dolphin. So, a lot of requirements there. So as we can see, starting off with this K64 T1, it's 24 tons. So this is not going to fit on the landing craft. And we're just going to go through this just to show you where we're coming from, or the starting point. Armor protection should actually be pretty solid. Yeah. So armor protection is about 100 millimeters on the front. So solid armoring. Firepower, we have a 77 millimeter gun with 147 millimeters of penetration, 800 meters per second muzzle velocity. Mobility, we have a 30.6 liter V8, kicking out about 600. Well, actually, kicking out about 860 horsepower. So, a fairly mobile tank, and a well-protected one with a decent gun. Fuel is 111 liters, with no external fuel capacity. 5-gear transmission, 10-gear transmission, 5 forward, 5 reverse. And an 8-cylinder engine. And we've already covered all that. So, the crew, we have a 4-man crew. But it has no dedicated radio operator. So the crew is not going to be working at its max efficiency if you assign a radio operator there. And basically, I imagine this thing is going to have to require flags, like signal flags, in order for it to properly work. Anyways, trying it out. The vehicle is maneuverable. Also, I should point out that the 77mm is not equipped with any armor-piercing high explosive rounds as of late, or as of current, and the ammunition capacity is only 32 rounds. So that's rather small. That's a rather small amount of ammunition available to be carried on the tank. Why does it have the antenna then? I imagine that's just so that the commander can talk between tanks. Like, I'm sure he has a radio, but there's no dedicated radio operator. Maybe, like, talk between tanks within his platoon, or receive orders from higher command, but he's not really going to be able to communicate with everybody else around him very much. It's for the radio, but only music. See, he just has an FM radio sitting there. Trick the enemy into thinking they can communicate with friends. Yeah. They've got some VoIP up in that bullshit. Alright. Overall, a very good tank. We've actually tested this in another stream, and it held up very well. Okay. So, the very first one that we've got here in line today, I'm just going to kind of go down here, is the VENG 28 Frog. I'm assuming this is designed by Vengineer. I'm pretty sure this has been designed by Vengineer. So, this is about 14.99 tons. This is really cutting it close, but it is under the weight limit. It is under the weight limit. So, let's see here. Armor protection-wise on the front, we have 43 millimeters. Not a great amount of armor, but still, the requirement says at least 30 millimeters to protect against artillery splinters. So, and when you are designing an amphibious tank, getting the armor protection to a reasonable level is not exactly the highest priority. So, armor protection is within the specified standards. The engine is taken directly from the Dolphin. So it shares the exact same characteristics there. And it needs to use at least 2 components here. So it looks like it's got its own track design, or are those the Dolphin tracks? No, they are the Dolphin tracks. Clutch braking instead. It is using clutch braking instead of twin transmission, probably due to probably in an attempt to save weight. Unfortunately, what that's going to mean is that this vehicle cannot turn on the spot. It needs to. It cannot turn in place. It's very slow in turns. It should perform poorly on slopes. At least turn poorly on slopes. But we'll see. The transmission is a... wow, that's a 17-gear transmission. That's rather complex. But it could do the job. We'll see. How much fuel do we have? 250 liters of fuel, with an extra 412 liters carried on the rear of the tank. So this vehicle should have a fairly good range. So 250 plus 412, that's 662. And if we go in here, 660, so about 463 kilometers range. You can unload this thing at the beach and it can go very far inland. I already reviewed the initial design, Darkus. So, yeah, about 462 kilometers is a very, very good range. Canon. It's using the same Dolphin cannon, with the same performance. Should be very, very solid. That cannon is a very, very good gun. Gun depression is a little bit low at 5 point... actually, never mind. I'm sorry. Max depression is 11 degrees. That's actually very good. I was reading the elevation rate. Elevation rate is actually pretty decent. Yeah, gun depression for 11.2. That's very, very good. Especially if you're climbing up the slope of a beach, having a very high amount of gun depression is going to help. Must only go forwards for the motherland. Yeah. It does have a 5-man crew, including a dedicated radio operator. The gunner and the radio man are a bit cramped inside this design, but they're operating well enough. And by the way, there was actually a recent change for Sprocket where you now have to have at least a 70% crew efficiency in order for the gunner to be able to elevate and traverse the gun at the same time. If you have below 78% efficiency, then the gunner will traverse the gun first and then elevate it. So far seems very, very solid all the way around. All right, let's take it through its paces. And it does seem to fulfill all of the requirements. It is below 15 tons, like it is right at 15 tons. It is not below 10 tons, though. But that's not really a requirement. Armor protection is exceeding 30 millimeters, or is 30 millimeters or more in most cases. The gun size is not 100 millimeters, but that's because it shares the same gun. The large fuel storage is just fine. Like, there's more than enough fuel here. And it uses multiple parts from the Dolphin tank that we don't have to produce brand new. Okay. So yeah, if I bring it to a stop, I can't turn the tank if I'm not moving forwards. So it acts a lot like a car. Alright. Although, despite the fact that it only has a clutch braking transmission, the vehicle handles pretty well. The turns are a little bit wide, which could be a problem. But beyond that, I think for an amphibious tank, especially for its weight and size, this is just fine. And it does accelerate up to a decent speed. And it does handle those slopes without much difficulty. As far as the suspension goes, should handle these bumps without much issue. Yep. Oh. Well, it's having difficulty there, and I think that's the issue of the space between the idler wheel and the front road wheel. Oh, there we go. Nope, never mind. So it was unable to pass. It was unable to pass the heavy bumps, or the large bumps, unless you got it going up with a running start. But yeah, should be noted. Struggles at low speeds. Medium trench crossing seems to be just fine. Large trench crossing can be done at high speeds. I imagine at low speeds this thing is going to struggle with anti-tank ditches. Yeah. At low speeds, it struggles with wide anti-tank ditches. It's going to need to get a running start. Let's go and check what its maximum speed is going to be. I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, Army. I only put that up today, and in the future, I'm gonna put that up a few days in advance for the next design competition whenever we do that. Because I think we'll do more than one. I think it only makes sense. I'll put one up a few days in advance. I can't make one that's indefinite, which is strange, but I can at least put it up in advance. Alright, maximum speed. I will definitely do a super heavy tank competition at some point. Oh, we're at 70 kph. That's very, very good. The vehicle does like to wander to the left, though. So I'm maintaining, I'm going to say about 72 kph is going to be its top speed. Very good. I think the swaying to the left is probably a function of the way the transmission is, and the way the map is designed. I think it's more of a sprocket issue than anything else, honestly. 36 degrees, otherwise it won't work. Alright, well, we'll see. Okay, overall, seems interesting. So, we'll keep that in consideration. The biggest downside I see here is the clutch braking transmission for the powertrain. I understand that's done to save space, but at the same time, not being able to turn on the spot, especially in tight confines as we're trying to load it into the landing craft if we need to, could be a problem. It does at least have eyelets for putting into the landing craft, though, which is not something that every tank has. If you can't get it into the landing craft, it doesn't matter. Alright. Next one. This is the Shekelton Liberator. I don't know who this was designed. I don't remember who this was designed by. Let me see here. See if I can find it. Yeah, I'm not sure who designed this one. Also, unless your vehicle was clearly marked as a vehicle for the contest, I didn't put it in. Yeah, I don't know who designed this one. I can't find it. Designer not named. I downloaded it from somewhere. Okay, it was from Kamikaze Fox. Kamikaze Fox designed this one. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a 15.01 ton tank, so it might be a little bit over the requirement, but I suspect that's just due to Sprocket being weird and adding weight. Sometimes when you load up somebody else's design, it doesn't quite carry over like 100% correctly. So I'll let that pass. In this case, you load it twice, it fixes it. All right, let me try loading it twice then. Load it one more time. Okay, yeah, 14.96. It keeps some old values the first time? Oh, that's weird. Remove the log. Okay. So, with a combat weight of 14.96 tons, this is a rather low-profile design, I gotta say. Interesting how it's got eyelets on the front of the turret. Like, it's got 2 eyelets here, it's got 2 on top of the gun, and then it's got 2 on the hull. Or no, 4 on the hull. I suspect that could be a potential design issue, but I'm not gonna worry about it too much. Alright, so Powertrain is a twin transmission. And then armor protection wise, wow. Really? Armor protection is very good. For its is very good for its height. And very good for its weight, I should say. Let's see here. Yeah, very good frontal protection, which is going to be useful when clearing a beachhead. Tracks. Engine is the Dolphin engine. The tracks are the Dolphin tracks. So those two are shared between the vehicles. The transmission is the same as the Dolphin. So the entire powertrain is carried over from the Dolphin, which is nice. Although I believe the track length is longer to accommodate the wider hull, but that's not a huge issue. As long as the track links are the same, essentially, then the design will work. Internal fuel is only 100 liters, and the external fuel is 195. So, 295 liters of fuel. That should be fine. It's not as insane as the previous design as we saw, but it should be fine depending on the engine. So 295 will get us about about 206 kilometers, or 205 kilometers. So a little over 200 kilometers. That's not bad. Especially considering that a lot of the fuel is going to be carried in from the beach. That's not terrible, by any means. Pretty decent. And we already know what the transmission is all about. Firepower. This is going to be interesting because this is a very short, like, howitzer. What is its depression? 17.5 degrees? Jesus Christ. That's very good. Lord knows how that's supposed to work. Lord knows how that's supposed to work in terms of the interior, because I have no idea where the cannon breech went, but let's say it goes down to about 7 there. I don't know how it has 17 degrees. That's kind of insane to me, but okay. Bendy cannon breech. We could say that, like, the cannon breech is actually put in at a slight angle. The breech, because there are firearms like that out there where the breech is at an angle to the barrel. Like, this could have something like a shotgun type breech. It's on rails like one of those garage doors. Yeah. It should be noted, however, that this is a turretless design. It is a casemate, which is probably how they were able to get the armor so high. So this does not have a turret. That could be a problem. But it's a purpose-built SPG, and it shares the same drivetrain. So that's something, I suppose. Penetration is pretty low at 76 millimeters, but that's not too surprising considering the length of the cannon. And it is a 101 millimeter cannon. So it should have a fairly decent HE charge, or a high explosive charge. And it carries 41 rounds of APHE. I assume the 41st round is probably going to be in the breech when you start. So 40 rounds of APHE/HE. That's going to be good for clearing bunkers. So this is essentially an assault gun. For all intents and purposes. This is a Sturmgeschütz. Good armor. Lower velocity howitzer meant for infantry support. It does at least have a machine gun, which is nice to see. For infantry defense. And it does have a rear sprocket wheel, so the transmission is in the back, which does a lot to free up space at the front of the vehicle. Okay, we have a 4-man crew. So the commander is also the gunner, which could be a problem because that does negatively affect the efficiency of everybody else in the crew. Not having a 5-man crew is rough, but at the same time, the requirements did not specify anything about having a 5-man crew. It just said that you needed a dedicated radio operator. Although I'm curious as to where the antenna is supposed to be. We'll just pretend that it oh, you know what? No. This right here is the antenna. That is it. In real life, this was often used as a radio antenna. Okay. Alright, that makes sense. Lower profile, too. It does have a dedicated radio operator, but that 15% commander debuff is going to be a problem. In terms of the efficiency of everybody else. Overall, it seems, at least on paper, it seems like a good design. Let's give her a run. Reload speed seems to be rather quick, about 3.6 seconds. And the twin transmission means that it can turn on the spot. Which is very good for maneuvering, especially as an assault gun. When you're going to need to aim the hull a lot, that's going to make a big difference. And the vehicle seems to move remarkably quickly for its size and heavy armor. Steam looks smooth. I'm getting between 80 and 90 FPS. Granted, I've also got a kind of a beast of a PC. I've got a Ryzen 9 3900X. And an RTX 2070 Super. Reverse speed is very good. Over 20 kilometers per hour, and it accelerates very quickly. And it's handling those slopes without any difficulty, really. Okay, let's see how it handles the cross-country terrain. No problem. Very nice. Cross those, no problem. The vehicle does seem to have a slight issue with wanting to turn to the right at low speeds. Ooh. And if it doesn't have a run-up, it struggles over the large trenches. If you give it a run-up, I'm sure it will cross those trenches just fine. Now, let's see. Yeah. You're going to need a run-up in order to cross those trenches. Actually, let's see how it performs if you try and cross this mid-trench at low speeds. Yeah, it handles the medium trench just fine. Okay. Let's give her a speed test. It should be said here though that the engine is over revving at higher gears. Yeah. It is possible to over rev this engine, which is a design flaw. If the vehicles are being over revved, then that means it could cause damage to the engine and potentially break down. Let's see, what's the top speed? Yeah, we are over revving. Seems to be about 47 kph. That is by no means bad, and yeah, we are already damaging the engine. So if the drivers put this into 5th gear, they will over rev the engine and damage it. Yeah, 47 kph seems to be the maximum speed. Okay. Seems like an interesting design. Seems very, very good for dealing with enemy bunkers and emplacements as we come off the beach. This could be an interesting design option for like an assault gun unit that could be utilized alongside whatever design we ultimately adopt. Okay. Next up is the EQ1 Model A. And this was designed by... Let's see here. This is one of the first ones I downloaded, so it might be here. This was made by Yanland Mapper. Okay. Yes, this game is available on Steam. There is a link below in the panels. So if you click on the sprocket panel, that should take you to the Steam page where you can pick it up. Okay, so this vehicle is 14.69 tons. It is a turreted vehicle. And let's see here. The armor protection is rather low at 32 millimeters thickness, but about 55 millimeters effective. 50 millimeters on the turret. So this is a distinctly lighter vehicle in terms of armor protection than what we just saw. Interesting placement for the exhausts, but it kind of makes sense if this is going to be an amphibious tank. Placing the exhausts on top of the engine deck will keep the engine from being easily swamped when it's going ashore. Should water come into the vehicle. With the downside of it being that the exhausts are going straight up in the back, so it might actually be easier to see the exhausts. Let's see here. Engine is the same engine as the K64 T1. So, same as the Dolphin. The track has been slightly modified, but that's okay. Modified non-restricted parts. This should still be pretty easy to produce. It looks like they swapped out the track pads to give it a little bit more grip and surface area over soft terrain. Let's see here. Engine, we've already covered that. Holy bejesus. That is a 20-gear forward transmission and a 10-gear reverse transmission. There were not any restrictions on the type of transmission that you could make. So, we'll try it out, but we're going to need to train drivers extra, drivers are going to have to take, a whole, semester, several semesters worth of fucking schooling in order to be able to handle this one. Unless it's automatic. If it's an automatic transmission, then the driver shouldn't have to worry about it. Fuel capacity. What do we got here? Wow. There is a lot of fuel on this thing. So, over 1,000 liters of fuel. Yeah. The distance used doesn't go past this point. So it'll go over 500 kilometers with just the fuel carried on itself, which is very impressive. So, this thing is going to have very long legs. We're going to be able to drop this thing off at the beach and drive it almost all the way across the home country. Very nice. Okay. Firepower. 18 degrees of gun depression. Holy but Jesus. Holy crap. This thing is going to be a hilltop monster. And if we're looking up at it, turret is still 66 millimeters. Not great, but this is going to mean it's going to be able to get behind almost any slope that you put in front of it. Almost any reasonable slope. Oh, I should also double check. It does have a twin transmission. Okay. Canon. It is a 110mm Canon. With 128.5 millimeters of penetration. So, it's kind of a long gun for that little penetration, to be honest. But it's probably due to weight constraints, or not weight, well, weight constraints and the shell length needs to be a certain amount in order to fit within that turret. Elevation rate is also rather slow. This is clearly a hand-cranked elevation unit. 1.63 degrees per second is pretty long. That could be fixed by adjusting the length and making the gun a little bit better balanced. Right now, it's a little bit breech heavy, and it needs to be a little bit more forward heavy, I believe. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's a little bit barrel heavy, and if you shorten the barrel a little bit, that could help quite a bit. All right. Ammunition Only 15 rounds of each? That's not great. Like, that's actually pretty shit in terms of the ammunition capacity. You're not going to be able to fire too many rounds before you're already out of ammunition. So, that's pretty rough. This thing is going to have long legs, but those long legs don't really matter if it has to come back to the depot after every single action because it's fired off all of its ammunition. So, that's going to be a problem. Crew, what do we got here? We have a 4-man crew. We do have a dedicated radio operator, but the commander is, again, also the gunner. And his hatch is pretty far back. Like, he's pretty far back from the gun. So that means we're going to have a pretty complex linkage in here in order to make sure that the commander can actually use the sight. Yeah, not having 40 rounds minimum on this vehicle is going to be a big problem, and considering that's a must. Reload? Base reload time is 6.69 seconds, which is... that's fine for a 110mm gun. But again, the issue here is that all the ammunition is stored in the turret, and there's only 30 rounds total, and half is half. You've only got half and half here, so... oh, reload the design? Yeah, we'll see here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it does have 41 rounds. I was gonna say, like, what the hell? Alright, that's gonna be a weird glitch. I'm gonna have to be reminded to do that. Alright, 41 rounds. That's fine. Although, again, the armor... I believe the penetration value here is listed for only armor piercing. It's not listed for the APHE rounds. $15 and $15 in the turret for the first load. Oh, that's so weird. Alright, well, I'm going to have to be reminded of that. APHE is 75% of the AP. So that's what? 128.5 times 0.75. It's about 96.37. That's okay. But I think the gun needs to be slightly better balanced. But we'll see. Alright, crew, as we already said, the commander is also the gunner, and that's going to negatively affect everybody else in the vehicle. A good way, by the way, something to keep in mind, if you make the commander anything else but the commander, it's going to debuff the rest of the crew. If you make say like the loader also the gunner, it's going to hurt your reload time, but it's not going to debuff the rest. It's not going to debuff the whole crew. Maybe you can make the radio man also the gunner, or something along those lines. But it will only affect the efficiency of that specific guy. So, just something to keep in mind, people, for your designs. It does need a dedicated radio man, though. That's true. Yeah, I would say probably just make the loader the gunner. In that case. Yeah, dedicated radio man. All right. Let's give her a go. This is a pretty wide vehicle, and it doesn't like to turn on the spot unless you bring it to a complete stop, but I think that's for all vehicles. It handles relatively well. Covers the gunner too. Okay, Okay, so it seems to handle the slopes just fine. Yeah, for the crazy amount of gears in this thing, I'm only using the first and second gear. There doesn't need to be that many gears in the gun or in the transmission. Also, this elevation speed, I don't like. That might be acceptable to some people, but for me personally, as the end user, that's unacceptable. It needs to be better. And that could be easily beefed up by actually better balancing the gun. It does seem to cross obstacles with very little issue though, which is good. Yeah, while driving at low speeds, the vehicle does not like to turn. And it does struggle to cross the wide trenches, but that's not a huge deal breaker. That is a very, very wide trench. Oh, that sucks, Kelly. All right. Okay, so overall, it's an okay vehicle. It's not a bad design. I do feel that the transmission does not need this much. Oh, I should probably test its top speed, shouldn't I? But yeah, not being able to turn at low speeds or having difficulty turning at low speeds is a problem. Although it does seem to handle the cross-country road just fine. And it isn't over-revving like the last design was. Straight through the wood in them. That's possible. But it's something to keep in mind. Yeah, my biggest gripe with this vehicle so far is the elevation speed. But that wasn't listed as a requirement, so. Yeah, man. So the maximum gear that we got it to was 4th gear. It doesn't need 20 gears worth of transmission. Hell, you could drop those gears from the transmission and dramatically increase the interior volume. Shit, I didn't read what the top speed was. What was the top speed? $72. So it's very fast. Probably owing to the fact that it's so light. But yeah, you could go down to 4th gear. And that's all you would ever need. Right there. And you just saved a little bit of weight. And this is a lot more reasonable to train drivers on. Anyways. Alright. We'll consider that one. Okay, so this is another one. K1 T2 Purpose with a 10-ton turreted. Okay. Interesting design. Its shapes and lines are rather similar to the Dolphin. What is its armor protection? 16 millimeters on the front of the hull. But the effective thickness is over 30 millimeters, so I'll give it a pass there. Oh, that's right, I need to load it twice. I keep forgetting to. That's such an annoying bug. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it's 16 millimeters of effective thickness, but or 60 millimeters of thickness, but it's effectively like 40. That's okay. But it does mean that if something is shooting it head on, it may not provide that level of protection. We'll see. I don't know how that hatch is on top of the vehicle. That hatch is going to need to be moved to the rear of the turret, but we'll just pretend that it's not hanging off the back of the turret like that. I'll just put the hatch like back here if we're gonna put one there. Alright, mobility appears to be its own transmission. The engine is taken from the Dolphin. And the tracks appear to be similar, but not the same. Same transmission, tracks, and engine. Okay. Well, I mean, the armor needs to be at least 30 millimeters in effective thickness, and it does achieve that. It's just that only having 16 millimeters could be a problem if somebody's shooting down on the vehicle. All right, we'll give it a pass on the mobility department in terms of design. 100. So it has 272 liters of fuel. And that's going to get this specific vehicle... That's going to get this vehicle a little under 290 kilometers. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, armor is not a must-have. It just needs to be at least 30 millimeters. And it didn't... I don't think the requirements at all said that it needs to be at least 30 millimeters in thickness. I think it's just at 30 millimeters effective. Alright. Firepower, what do we got here? So we have a 101 millimeter howitzer, it looks. The gun is fairly well balanced. It's a little bit barrel heavy, but not to the point where I think it would matter all that much. The gun has a depression rate of 20 degrees. Oh, probably owing to this turret shape, which is very very impressive. A lot of these vehicles have had very good gun depression. Not really a requirement, but still very impressive. The torque on the elevation mechanism is very low, though. This elevation rate is going to be a problem. 0.29 degrees per second is awful, elevation-wise, but it wasn't a requirement, so... That's just something we're going to have to... That's going to fall under the capability requirement. So let's see here. And ammunition-wise, it does carry 40 rounds of APHE. Crew, we have a 5-man crew, but none of these guys are particularly comfortable. It is very cramped inside that vehicle. And that's leading to a pretty high debuff. It might be better in this case to actually just make the commander the gunner, like people have been doing. Or make the loader the gunner. But this is a very, very short vehicle and very small one. Okay. This is a sub 10-ton design. So, it is extremely light. However, it is lacking eyelets, although I imagine those can be easily installed. It's like, let's say we just threw on an eyelet. like, here. And then throw on a couple back here. That way you can lift it up and put it onto the ship. What's the horsepower per ton? Let's see, the horsepower per ton is 87.1. So it should be very quick to accelerate. Oh god. Does it have a manual traverse? No, it is a powered traverse speed. It just traverses at 3.9 degrees per second. That's gonna mean that this gun is completely unusable while you are, if this thing is transitioning from land to the ground, or to the beach. We're transitioning from sea to the beach. Yikes, that turret traverse speed is going to be rough. It means the guys inside are practically going to have to just wait forever for this gun to traverse onto target. And the accuracy is not going to be amazing, too. Yeah, the accuracy is pretty terrible. So you're going to have to get close in order to hit things, but your armor is not going to be particularly good. Which is a problem. The closer you get to the enemy, the more likely it is they're going to be able to hit you. Yeah, I would say just, at this point, ditch the turret. Ooh. At this point, ditch the turret. Make it a fixed mount. And just crank up and just install a more powerful motor to traverse the gun. If it was a 15-ton turretless tank, you could make it way more capable. Agreed. Use the extra 5 tons that are available to you, and it could be a lot more capable. I feel like this vehicle would only serve to have a place as sort of like an M8 Scott in real life, like sort of a rear echelon close-in artillery support. And we don't have any open-top vehicles yet, so that's I can't really fault it for not being open-topped. And I am holding the right mouse, or telling it to turn right, and when it stopped, and it was driving forward. It looks really nice. Yeah, it looks very simplistic, and I feel like that's sort of the intention of this design, is to be as simplistic as possible to produce. So we'll keep it in mind. It's not a complete failure by any means. I just think that if you're going to be making a howitzer / assault gun type vehicle, you should give it a lot more armor. Instead of dropping all of the armor. I think you should use the 5 extra tons there to give this thing some armor. Because if this thing had armor to the point where it could approach enemy fortifications. Ooh, and the vehicle is already over-revved. It has over-revved itself just getting to the test range. Yeah, the vehicle is over-revving itself. And I think that's a product of the transmission, actually. The Dolphin tank does have a fault in the transmission where it is over-revving. And that it already has damaged the engine. Yeah. Twin transmission, it needs to have the side you are turning towards geared down. and a cramped driver gears up and down slower. It happens often that the tank is at the higher gear on the side you want to turn, and it needs 3 to 4 seconds to gear down enough. Ugh. So that's an issue with Sprocket, not so much the game, or not so much the design. Parts requirement, and that led to over-revving. Yeah, the vehicle has immobilized itself and set itself on fire. That's a problem. If the vehicle is setting itself on fire, then something needs to change. Because, must be German in origin. And the crew died too, nice. Yeah, the testing group burned themselves to death. Okay, it's an interesting design. I like the shape, but I feel like you should use the extra 5 or so tons that you have. Give this thing some more armor and fix the transmission. Burn to death because the hatch doesn't work. Yeah, neither the driver nor the assistant nor the frontal hull assistant has a hatch. They all have to go out through the turret, through the commander's hatch, because that's the only one that works. Want to try a sub 10 ton for the challenge? For a 10 ton, well, here's the problem. Like, even for a 10 ton tank, this is problematic. If you're going to go 10 tons, I think what you should do is you should fix the transmission. You can keep the engine, but I would say adjust the transmission to fix, to do what you need. Because you're already under 10 tons. Well, the transmission is supposed to be copied, but it doesn't help you if the transmission over-revs itself and kills the tank. So, you only want to copy something over if it actually works for you. If that doesn't work, then you only need a minimum of 2 parts from that vehicle. So, in this case, you could add more gears, but I think what you need to do is you need to adjust the gear ratios to begin with. Yeah, doing the bonus is nice, but at the end of the day, it needs to be an effective tank that meets the must requirements. The bonus requirements are nice, but if the tank doesn't work because of that, then there's no point. So, I'm going to fail this one because it doesn't work. And it can damage it can damage itself. Because not all drivetrains are created equal. Anyways, yeah, the gun handling is also a huge issue. Not being able to traverse quickly onto a target and destroy it is a big problem. And not having, and the lack of accuracy and any armor protection. If the gun was accurate, then it could at least stand off at range and hit the targets it needs to. But the gun's not accurate, and meaning it has to get close to the target, and it has no armor once it gets there. So, it was a good attempt, but ultimately it's a flawed design. Alright. I think Kat will hold off on checking out your designs until we've tested everybody else's. We'll say that these were designs from the state. From the State Department. Well, I downloaded your designs because they were based off of it. Anyways, we'll skip them then. Alright. This one was designed by somebody. saw a mod. I saw it somewhere. Okay, so it's Euros Mania. Okay. Let us start with the hull. It's an interesting shape, that's for sure. Very small and very low profile. It is turreted. It has a 20 degree per second traverse. Oh, right. I need to load it twice. Thank you. There we go. 21 degrees per second traverse. Which should be good. Should make things a lot easier to traverse onto targets. And the armor protection is within specifications in terms of effective thickness. The actual thickness of the armor is, however, below the requirements, or below the bonus points. So that's fine. At least I believe that was it. Let me double check. It must have at least 40 millimeters of protection for its main gun. It does have that. It has 220 millimeters of protection for the main gun, so we're not worried about that there. But the rest of the armor is not amazing, but it's within requirements. But hey, I mean, you know what? Things have got to be, things have got to be, what's it called? Some things have got to be sacrificed. Everything's a compromised. Oh, penetration. I'm sorry, not 40 millimeters of armor. You're right. You're right. You're right. I read that wrong. My bad. Okay. Tracks look the same. The engine is carried over. And the transmission has been modified. Just hoping that that's enough to, just hoping that's enough here to, keep the vehicle from over-revving. Although the forward gears don't seem to have been modified. 54 liters on board internal fuel is not great, but there's plenty of fuel on the back here, so... So let's see here, how much fuel we got. 54 liters plus 522. That's like 576 liters of fuel. Yeah, so about 405 kilometers of range, which is very, very good. It just means that with that internal fuel supply, you're gonna be filling this thing up routinely. Yeah, every 40 or so, no, about every 33 kilometers. No, is it 50? Yeah, every 38 kilometers, you're gonna have to fill this thing up, which is gonna be kind of a pain, and that means that the driver is gonna have to really pay attention to his fuel gauge. Last thing you want to do is run out of fuel in the middle of combat. So its operational range without external fuel modules is pretty low. I think it's hit in the back, it'll become a lighthouse. Yeah, that's a lot of fuel. And the fact that it's so close to the engine, I mean, there's not any vents under this thing. I'm certain of it, but... Jesus Christ. Unless it's pipe-linked external tanks. Even still, that's it. If they're pipe-linked external tanks, then, that could be a problem. Because then there are exposed enemy fire. IS-2 had those? Alright. Okay, we'll give it a pass on fuel then. Alright, gun mount. Good elevation rate. 6.92 degrees of gun depression, but Gun depression is not a main requirement. It's just nice to have. So 6.9, that's perfectly serviceable. 5.14 degrees per second is a good elevation speed. 40 rounds of APHE, 10 rounds of AP, good enough. It is a 77mm gun, but it does not appear to be the same gun. Yeah, it is not the same gun. The accuracy also leaves a lot to be desired. 90.3 millimeters at 100 meters is not accurate at all. Or the precision, I should say, isn't amazing. Which could be a problem if the armor is very low like it is. But we'll see. We'll give it some tests. Yeah, there also isn't enough burn off on the shell. It's not burning all the powder before it leaves the cannon barrel. It does not matter. Well, it does matter if you're trying to hit shooting ports. Like if there's a gun in like a very small shooting port, then you're gonna want to be able to hit that. Especially if your armor is not great, you're gonna want standoff in order to increase the effectiveness of your armor over distance. So, having low accuracy is going to be a problem, especially because the shell is not getting enough burn on the propellant, which is a problem. Yeah, there is enough weight that you could extend the gun, and it does look like it's very breech heavy. So this gun is not well balanced, which is going to affect the elevation rate. You could probably get it higher if the center of mass was more balanced. Yeah, it's got a 1 meter long breech, so penetration isn't super necessary. It just needs to be at least 40 millimeters for the APHE. And it's well above that. It's like closer to 90 millimeters here. Okay. Crew. We have got a 5-man crew. Nice and efficient. Although the radio man has like next to no space. Could probably give him a little bit more space, but it does work. Let's see here. Yeah. It seems good enough. Okay. Let's give her a test run. Screw him, he doesn't need shit. I have to say, this vehicle, despite its relatively flat profile, it's rather large compared to many of the other designs that we've tested so far, but it is under the 15-ton weight requirement. And it seems to be handling the slopes pretty well. Now just have the radio operator ride on the back of the vehicle. He's gonna be like one of those Soviet tank riders. Yeah, mobility-wise, this seems to be pretty dang good. I mean, it's handling these slopes without... Well, I was going to say it was handling the slopes without too much difficulty, and then it just got stuck. But I think that's more of an issue with Sprocket there, so I'll give it a pass for that one. Alright, let's see how it does over the bumpy terrain here. Transmission seems a little stiff. Yeah. There is a very large gap. Oh my god, I just killed myself. I'm not gonna fault the vehicle for that one. That should not have killed me. The collision physics need a little bit of, need a bit of a rework. Yeah, there we go. Got over it, but it took a running start and it heavily wounded the crew. But again, that's not... It shouldn't kill the crew like that, or it shouldn't wound them that badly. That's a function of the game. Alright. Alright, let's test out the accuracy. Oh, it seems to work. Again, the dispersion is not amazing. Yeah, the suspension being ridiculously stiff is probably not helping it. I think you could make the transmission a little less stiff. Give the wheels a little bit more room to ride. Or to ride upwards. And they would be fine. Because right now, that suspension looks like it's going to snap every time it hits something. Alright, let's test its top speed. It does not appear to be over-revving the engine, which is good. That suspension definitely needs some loosening up. And I think it could also use a lower distance between the front idler and the road wheels. It goes fast as hell, though. Okay, we are starting to over-rev. And again, that's an issue of the transmission. Well, we're getting about 63 kilometers, 64 kilometers an hour. Not bad, but I think what this needs is you could drop the fifth gear. It would drop the speed of the vehicle, but top speed isn't super critical. I think it's better that the vehicle is reliable. Contest submissions for this stream? Yes. I'll only be looking at those this stream, just to save time. And because I've got a lot of them to get through. Engine over revs if it runs out of gears. Okay. So yeah, you need to add more gears to the transmission. Again, you need to copy at least two things from the design, but you need two things that will work with your design. Gun could be better too. Yeah, I agree. It's not getting a full burn on the powder, and the accuracy could be it could be quite a bit better. No worries, we'll sort it out in mass production and totally not make it cheaper and less optimal. Yeah. I do have other music that I could play, but I don't feel like it fully fits it. Yeah, we'll try it. I am a person with very particular taste in music, and I don't always like what streamers play. Anyways. If the fit gear was set to, like, 0.01, it would probably stall and go into fourth and won't burn. There we go. Building mediums and heavies. Well, designing a light tank for a very strict set of requirements like that is, it's not easy. Like, here I am judging judging all these submissions, but I'm just telling them what the issues are that we have to consider. I'm not going through these expecting to get the perfect tank, especially for these weight requirements. I would much rather have a decent amount of armor on the vehicle and have it survive than have 32 millimeters, but I'm not the one setting out these requirements, so. But that's just my personal, preference. So yeah, it is not a bad vehicle. It does share a lot of characteristics with the Dolphin. But I think that the gun and the transmission do need a rework. Okay, moving on. K64 T5 Turtle. Okay, we'll get to the crew here in a moment. What's the armor like? Decent amount. An interesting hull shape. This reminds me a lot of the Matilda Mark 1. Also, I'm going to that. I should probably load this again. There we go. That was annoying me because it was slightly off center. This is interesting. That commander's hatch is very tiny, I have to say. Very small. This entire vehicle strikes me as very small. Yeah, I mean, that's not a crazy big piece. Alright. Traverse rate 3.2 degrees per second. Yikes. And this is a 12-ton vehicle. I don't know if we did yet, Redstone. You might not have. Yeah, so about a 12-ton vehicle. Let's see here, mobility. It's got the same transmission. An interesting track design. Not a lot of road wheels. No, we haven't gone over the Dolphin 2 yet. Yeah, and it looks like the the tracks are taken from... Oh, never mind. These are brand new tracks. I'm sorry. Those tracks do not fill the weight distribution weight requirement. Well, we'll see. If the vehicle can still hold itself up, then that's fine. Like, I would say that it works. But we'll have to test it. Alright, so it's got the same engine. And it looks like it has the same transmission, too. We'll see if it over-revs itself in 5th gear. 150 liter plus 180 liters. So that's what? 330? Yeah, 330 liters will get you 291 kilometers. That's not bad. That is not bad. This is a very small vehicle. I'm curious as to how they managed to fit the Dolphin's engine in there. Yeah, those road wheels are pretty well spaced apart, and but they are double road wheels, so they are putting quite a bit of contact here. It looks like you're just going to have to put a lot more effort into what's it called? Track tensioning. You have to make sure that the track is properly tensioned here. Alright, firepower. What do we got? Oh god, those elevation speed. The elevation and traverse rate are not very good. It does have 51 millimeters of penetration, although I'm pretty sure that it's going to be under the 40 millimeter mark. So 51.5 that's 0.75. Yeah, 38 millimeters for the APHE does not meet the penetration requirements for the APHE rounds. They don't have enough penetration to crack bunkers. They're just going to explode on the outside and not do enough. 38 is close enough. I think that if we're going to be dealing with bunkers, we're going to want as much penetration as we can get. But we'll see. The accuracy is horrific, though. 416 millimeter, 416.2 millimeters. Yikes. And it's not quite getting the 95% burn off on the powder. How did I calculate that? You take whatever the penetration is, and then you multiply it by 0.75. So you divide it by 75%, essentially. Or it's 75% of whatever the AP value is. So yeah, this thing has the dispersion of a literal barn. It does have 40 rounds of APHE. A vast majority of them are in the hull. I mean, that's fine. Only 5 ready rack rounds of ammo is okay. But again, it's going to take you so long to get on target that it doesn't particularly matter. What is the reload time? 2.3 seconds. And the shell length is tiny. You could tell, though, that he was trying to balance the gun out. The gun is pretty well balanced. But I think that you could probably increase the size of the turret, especially because you're over the 10-ton weight limit. If you were trying to get under the 10-ton weight limit, that would have been one thing. But this is not 15 tons, so you could easily expand the hull, give it a little bit more room, make it a little bit more comfortable for the crew. Yeah, a lot more comfortable for the crew. And get a much better vehicle out of it, I think. Shell is short and fat, yeah. It's a chode. You're basically an FT with a 101mm gun. Pretty much. At least the HE punch should be fine. Because the barrel is so short, the high explosive punch can be increased. Because you don't have to make the walls of the shell so thick. Okay. All right. Well, let's test it out. See how the suspension is. God, that traverse rate on the turret. Oh, does this thing have a... Wait, hang on. It has a clutch braking transmission. Yeah, so this thing cannot turn on the spot. It needs to be driving forwards in order to be able to turn. Let's test the accuracy of the main gun here while we're here. Well, it hit it on the first shot. Let's fire 5 rounds. That is a long reload. Yikes. This is what 416 millimeters of dispersion gets you. I think this is the last round. Alright, it's something. It does appear that the road wheels are holding up. Oops. That clutch braking is not ideal, though. I think that if you increase the hull volume, you could easily get... yeah, if you increase the hull volume, you could easily get a twin transmission in here. Beef this thing up to 15 tons. It's handling the slopes just fine. It is a lighter vehicle. Whether or not it's going to be all that capable, though, that's another thing. I can get a Discord link here real quick. There we go. You're gonna have to ping the moderators to get access. Or to get access to the rest of the Discord. Okay. So yeah, overall, this is an innovative design. This is an innovative design. It's got an interesting hull shape. But I think that, well, let's test the top speed. The lack of a twin transmission is kind of a bummer. And I think that if it's kind of a halfway house between a 10-ton and a 15-ton design. This is too heavy as a 10-ton. But the extra 4 tons could very well be used for improving the rest of the vehicle's characteristics. And the vehicle is over-revving itself at high speeds, so even though it's very fast. All right. Yeah, the vehicle is over revving itself, and it's going to cause damage to the engine. So, I would not classify this as a reliable design either. Angry Adrian, it's likely that we're going to end up doing this over a couple of streams. So, I'll put up another thread after we're done today, where you could submit designs under the Sprocket channel. Was this one posted? This was posted last week. Like, I put up the requirements last week. The next stream will be on Monday, by the way. We'll likely end up continuing this on Monday, or not. No, it wouldn't be Monday. It would be Tuesday. Yeah, we'll likely end up continuing this on Tuesday, and then if not Tuesday, then we'll definitely do it Thursday. All right. So, we'll consider it, but the transmission/engine does need some refinement. Okay. Moving on. We've got the KAAT GDT Alt 1. Porpoise. Or Porpoise? Porpoise? I think it's Porpoise. Yeah, load twice. Okay, we are right at 15 tons. Let's see what we got here. Decent amount of armor, actually. In fact, very good armor. That's going to make this thing able to be used at close range against enemy shore defenses. Okay. Very, very nice. I like that. Mobility. What do we got? Twin transmission. Very good. And the tracks, I'm going to assume, are slightly... Well, the suspension is slightly different, but the tracks appear to be the same. Yeah, all the vent fans up at the front, though. That could be a problem if this is a hole directly into the armor. That could be a problem from the sense that fire could get, like, shots could penetrate the vehicle by hitting those in real life, but we're not going to worry about it. It's just aesthetic. Let's see. Different tracks. Yeah, the tracks are definitely different. And the suspension is definitely different. Okay. The engine is transferred over. And so is the transmission. Okay. So only 16 liters of internal fuel capacity? Also, I like how the fuel tanks are apparently magically off in space. Very nice. I didn't know we had this technology, but we'll roll with it. 207 liters of fuel carried on board, or carried on the outside, which that's fine. That's going to give this vehicle, let's see here, 236 liters. So that's going to give this thing about 165 kilometers. God, I wish I could just put in the amount of fuel consumed. 236 liters, so about 165 kilometers-ish. That's fine. It's a little bit short-ranged compared to some of the designs we've seen, but it's not bad. I do think that the internal fuel is a little lacking, personally. Okay, so there's only a 3-man crew. Oh, wow. Yeah, so the commander is the gunner, the loader, and the commander. There is a dedicated radio operator. And there is an antenna. Not ideal, but it could be worse. Firepower, what do we got here? Only 4.3 degrees of gun depression. Not really a requirement, but it could be better. 3.91 degrees per second elevation, that's fine. How much traverse did we get? 28.2 degrees traverse. That's very good. So the gun's going to be able to get on target relatively quickly. Ammunition, 20 rounds of armor piercing, 40 rounds of APHE. And then, what was its penetration like? 80, so it'll get about 60 millimeters of penetration with the APHE, that's fine. Accuracy is decent, 69.5 millimeters is pretty good. Base reload time is 2.89 seconds, not bad. Let's see here. Let's see, what else am I missing? Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it. So it does have two elements from the design. You'd say the accuracy is nice. Yeah, very nice accuracy. Use the second version? I've only got the first version. I could not find a second version. Elder Rock. If you want to post it right now, I'll allow it. Yeah, it does occur to me that the recent updates could have borked the older versions. Like between when I posted the design and when the update came out, it could have broken it. All right. One or 2 days ago? Yeah, that could be it. Oh, well. Well, maybe what we can do is we could just say that, the transmission will be fixed when it goes into production. Yeah, Roshando, I downloaded the most recent one that you posted in the thread. So that one should be fixed. Oh, you mean his? Well, I haven't seen I didn't see the second one, so I was just quickly scrolling through. Okay. Why does the traverse rate feel so slow? That does not feel like 28.2 degrees per second. What the hell? That feels really slow. Okay, whatever. Oh, yeah, you're right. It's probably gunner efficiency. It's the gunner efficiency. That's what it is. Crew efficiency is not... Yeah, okay, so crew efficiency is not calculated. Yeah, so the... So with the crew efficiency being so slow, or so low on the commander, he's traversing the turret at a much reduced rate. He could traverse it faster if he had a lot more space, but he doesn't, so... The vehicle's a little slow to turn, in general, it feels. And it seems to handle slopes just fine. It does struggle with these large bumps. It's getting over them, but it's struggling quite a bit because of the lack of road wheels and the distance between the road wheels. Although you could say that maybe maybe the designer chose to leave that gap there in the road wheels to give the driver some extra room. Yeah, it needs to be able to climb on the third slope of this ramp, and I think I went up the fourth. If it can handle the fourth, then it can handle the third just fine. Yeah. It handled it without issue. Yeah, I would say the major issue with this is that the commander is overworked. He's doing a lot of things at once. And virtually so far it feels like nobody has put in an underpowered design. Everything has been pretty mobile that we've tested so far. And I'm not gonna hold the I'm gonna drop the requirement for it being for it over revving. I'm gonna drop the issue of it over revving here, because that seems to be just a flaw that all of these vehicles have. Yeah, recycling the engine and transmission both do that. Well, yeah. In that case, yeah, there's, I would say that's just an issue that you're going to have to fix. Whether that be through modifying the transmission or choosing the transmission or the engine to copy over and finding some other element to copy. Yeah. Okay, overall, I would say the biggest issue with this is just the commander is overworked. And it is right at 15 tons. I think it said that... Didn't it say that it has to be under? Must weigh less than 15 tons. Yeah, so this is right at that weight limit. Okay, well, we'll keep this one in mind, but I think personally just the commander is overworked. Okay, moving on. You can see we got quite a few vehicles here that we need to get through. Alright. This vehicle is 14.43 tons. This is the Privateer M21 design. So, what do we got? Decent amount of armor. Very good armor protection. Oh yeah, let me load it again just to be sure. Tracks add to armor. That's true. But overall, armor protection on the front of the vehicle seems to be pretty good. I'm not worried about the side and rear armor of these vehicles because in order to keep the weight down, you're going to have to sacrifice the side and rear armor. Although the fact that they're 30 millimeters in thickness means that they're going to be able to withstand artillery fragments, which is good. Alright, mobility. Twin transmission. Tracks appear to be the same. Dolphin tracks. Engine. It is a different engine. So this is a wow, this is a pretty high RPM. It's 162 horsepower at 11.2 horsepower per ton for the RPMs. Transmission, it's only got a single gear on the transmission, interesting, and the transmission is different. Tracks and the gun are the same, okay. 405 liters of internal fuel plus 298. So 405 plus 298. 703. That's not bad by any means. So it would be over 500 kilometers. So this thing has amazing fuel economy. With just the 405 liters of fuel, how far can we get? Uh, 294 kilometers. 405 liters of fuel. That's solid. That's great. The fully fueled up, this thing will be able to go very, very far inland. Firepower. What do we got here? So we have the same cannon as the Dolphin. So the tracks and the cannon are taken from the Dolphin, which is great. We don't have to worry about new logistics or anything along those lines. It's a solid cannon. We know it works. Ammunition. 40 rounds of APHE. It's all stored in the hull, interestingly. So the reload speed is going to be about 6.3 seconds. Not quite as high as it could be, but that's just fine. That's not really a requirement. So far, I really like the look of this vehicle. It's under the 14-ton weight limit. It's got good armor. Should be fairly mobile. And it appears to have a 5-man crew. With the caveat that the Radio Man has next to no space. He's just kind of crammed in there. The commander does have plenty of room to work with, though. The driver, not so much. The gunner has a little bit less than ideal, but he'll be just fine. And the loader has plenty of space to work as well. Okay. So far, this is one of the best tanks we've reviewed. He sits in a box next to the engine. He serves no purpose. The gun's accuracy should be just fine. Yeah, I should have no issues hitting all of these. Oh, that's weird. Oh wow, the engine will idle at 2,000 RPMs. This little engine is working its ass off. All right. Well, so far it's not bad. If it can handle the slope. Yeah, I can handle the level 3 slope just fine. It's not going to be the fastest vehicle out there that we've tested so far. But it handled the slope requirement just fine. So it will get up the beach. Yeah, it struggled a little on that, but it got up. I mean, it only needed to go up that one, so that the fact that it will handle that is just fine. Oh, change the rest angle to 36 degrees. Let me do that real quick. Track suspension. Oop, I need negative 36. There we go. Yeah, it'll handle that just fine. Alright. So far, so good. So far, so good. Seems to be handling this. Whoa. Seems to be handling this just fine. So far, I'm very impressed with this vehicle. I would say the biggest downside is probably the traverse rate, but I think that's mostly down to the fact that the gunner is not in the most efficient position. He's not traversing the turret at maximum efficiency due to space constraints. The VI-23D is not a submission for the contest, by the way. I see. Okay, good to know. I just imagine the people at the proving ground sitting there like, why did they bother? Okay. Let's see how this thing does. Well, it's not over-revving itself. It's not particularly fast. But top speed isn't all that important for an amphibious vehicle. .36 kph, it's by far the slowest I think that we've seen so far. But that seems to be just fine to me. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. And because it utilizes the same cannon, it can use the same ammunition that we've already got in the logistics supply. I'm liking this one. I think this is probably my favorite one so far of all the ones that we've seen. But we're not done yet. We have many more to test. Did we already take a look at the project? Yeah, we did. Oh, wait, no, this is a different one. Project Sheldon. Oh god. Okay, yeah, it doesn't have enough armor. Having only 5 millimeters, although it is it is under the 10-ton limit for the 10-ton design submissions. It is certainly an interesting design. Same caliber and shell length, but of slightly different dimensions? I believe so. Yeah, so you cannot alter the... Oh, I'm sorry. You cannot alter the gun in any way, must use the same shell length. Yeah, so the gun has to be completely copied over. The idea being that we don't have to produce a brand new gun for it. We can just slot in the gun that we already have. Yeah, the gun cannot be altered in any way. If it's been altered in any way, then it's not a copy. Or then it's not going to be able to use the same gun. So, this is a slightly unorthodox design. Tracks. What do we got here? The tracks themselves look the same. But the real road wheels are interleaved. Was the original interleaved? No. It was not. These are new tracks. I'm gonna load it up twice just to be certain. It gets cute points, that's for sure. Fair enough. 30. So this is the same engine. Same transmission. Okay. Fuel. Wow, that is a lot of fuel. Holy crap. Where's the fuel fill-up port, though? It appears that the designer forgot to put a fuel fill-up port. That is a problem. You're gonna have to remove the fuel tank from the vehicle in order to refill it. Oh well, that's a slight oversight. You need to transfer the fuel via red solo cups through the commander's hatch? Get a new one if it runs out. It's cheap enough, that's for sure. Alright, firepower. What do we got? 20 degrees of gun depression. Oh, also, what's the traverse speed? Oh, no. The turret is fixed. It doesn't actually have a rotating turret. This is a casemate tank destroyer. Or a casemate assault vehicle. With no armor. Yeah. So it is a 101mm gun. I suspect a turretless tank. Make it totally look like it has a turret. Yeah. Certainly fooled me. It is getting proper powder burn. 92 millimeters of penetration at out of a gun this short. That's not bad. I'll take that. The penetration is a little low though. So 54.1 times 0.75. Okay, that's right at 40 millimeters. Okay, I'll take that. 40 millimeters for the APHE, like 40.5. So it's out the requirement. Alright, what do we got for crew? So we have a 3-man crew. The commander is doing the job of the loader and the gunner. Not too surprising, but they all have plenty of space. The driver isn't going to be as efficient, and the radio man isn't going to be as efficient, but that's kind of the trade-off that you get when you must have a dedicated radio operator. All right. There's a 50 cal that can rotate. Yeah, but he's gonna have to kind of sit off to the side and control it, which means that he's actually gonna have a pretty limited arc, unless he's trying to fire it way off to the side. Okay. Oh. All right, let's give her a go. It's got plenty of fuel. Actually, let me test the accuracy of the cannon. For a turretless vehicle, this does traverse pretty well. Anything below 53.33 millimeters of pin cannot go past 40 millimeters. I'm never going to remember that because I'm not a numbers guy, but good to know. Thank you. I'm just being honest here. Yeah, 2,000 liters of fuel. I don't think we're going to have any issues with that running out anytime soon. Well, the gun's accuracy seems to be just fine. The suspension seems a bit stiff. Yeah, the suspension seems a bit stiff. Yeah, that suspension has virtually no travel in it. I mean, it works, but that's going to be putting a lot of ground pressure. It does, at the very least, get up to speed pretty quick. Yeah. Yeah, I think that the suspension could be loosened up quite a bit. It's just bouncing all over the place. Which, I mean, I get, it's not like you've got a turret, so I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. Because you're going to have to stop to really aim the gun anyways. Especially with that low traverse rate. So it's not a huge deal, but at the same time, it's not going to be fun for the crew. Now, boing. Alright, how are we going to do for top speed? And is this vehicle going to over-rev? Yes. Yes, this vehicle is going to over-rev. It's already damaged itself. Which is not helping it. Put a wooden block under the gas pedal to increase reliability. Yeah, no point to having all that range if the engine explodes. Yeah, I agree. So the two big, okay, the three or four things that I would say that this need to be dramatically improved. One, the armor. The armor needs to go up. 5mm just isn't going to cut it. Like, the thing might as well be an armored car. Two, I would say the suspension needs adjustment. Like, it's too stiff. It needs to have some give to it. Right now, it's just the damper and so on is too stiff by a large margin. And then the transmission needs to be redone. Like, it needs to be done to fit the tank. Because the standard engine and transmission combination over revs. If you're going to a casemate, you should just go with a hull and make the front more sloped and armored and stick everyone in the hull. Yeah, that's also an option as well. This is a very tall vehicle. Like, and while yes, you get incredible gun depression out of it, for being as tall as it is, you're a pretty big target for having 5mm of armor. Like, if machine guns are going to be deadly to you, there's kind of not really a point to being in this thing. You might as well be on foot and be way more mobile than being in a tank. The gun is good, though. I like the gun. And the traverse angles are great. But I think that this vehicle... yeah, for 10 tons, I would say this vehicle is okay, but it's lacking hull armor. Uses plot armor. Well, that only works, Cat, if you're the focus of the plot. If you're not the focus of the plot, you're not gonna live. If you're just some Joe Schmo, then yeah, you could forget living in the main combat. Yeah, so I would say that the biggest issues are the suspension, the armor, and the overworked crew. Or well, the suspension, the armor, and the over-revving transmission. So, like, this vehicle didn't get more than about a kilometer before the engine broke down. Or before the engine, like, would basically destroy itself. So it doesn't matter that it's got ridiculous amounts of range on the engine. Yeah. It doesn't matter that it's got 2,000 liters of fuel on it. It's not going to be able to use any of that. Just have an engine truck follow it. Do the Cat, just pull the early T34 thing and just strap extra transmissions to the back of the engine block. This tank is 20% fuel. Yeah. Let's see, if I was to use like 100 liters of fuel. Yeah, look at how much space, that internal volume that frees up. I feel like this vehicle was designed, and then the designer just increased the amount of fuel until it filled up the internal space. Alright. Moving on. Oh, this is not designed for the, expelled. Doesn't meet the right requirements. I gotta reload this thing again. There we go. Okay. This is the R4A2 this is the R4A21. Armor protection, very good armor protection, and it's at right at the 15-ton weight limit, so this is the best protected vehicle I think we've seen thus far. Okay. Where the log at? There was no requirement for a log. Yeah, there was no requirement for a log. Um, 80 liters of fuel plus 352 liters of externals. Not bad. Best I could do is a stick. See, powertrain, twin transmission. Tracks. These are definitely not the same tracks. Engine. It is a new engine. And then the transmission has been carried over. So the gun, it looks like the gun and the, oh no. The gun has not been carried over. So what did? The gun should be the same?
Shut up, bless God, and get fruitful. Woo!
Yeah, I guess it is. Seng, thanks for the 40 months, man. Holy shit. Really appreciate it. Yeah, 40... Alright, we'll just say it's the same gun. Okay. So the gunner... so it's the main gun and the transmission that is the same. Alrighty. 5 armor-piercing rounds and 40 APHE rounds. Alrighty. And now crew. 5-man crew. The driver is kind of cramped. So is the gunner. And the radio man is very cramped too, but the loader and the commander have a decent amount of space. Okay. What's the traverse rate? Alright, it's going to be a lot lower because the gunner is not working at optimal efficiency. And he's not going to be able to traverse and elevate the gun at the same time because of the lack of space for him. Stuffed under the torsion bars. Oh, I mean, the gunner is not doing much better either. He can only use one of the two things at a time because they're so freaking close together. If he traverses the turret, like, or if he's elevating the gun, he can't traverse the gun at the same time. He's got to do the traversing first, and then elevate the gun. That's going to be a problem. And he's going to be doing it rather slowly, too. Alright. Well, here's to hoping that the new engine... Wow, that is a really high RPM engine. Oops. Yet. There we go, 1400. I meant to set this. 3950. What do we got here? So, about 360 horsepower. 24.2 horsepower per ton. Okay. Gun should be accurate enough. I think I could spawn... Oh, I can. There we go. I didn't even realize that I could do that until now. I always thought that the Z menu was something else. Okay. That's actually going to be helpful. Good so far. That was entirely the fault of the crew. And it seems to handle slopes just fine. So far, so good. A lot of compromises were made for the armor. Yeah, I could see that. But having all that extra armor when assaulting a beach is going to be pretty critical for closing with and destroying enemy positions. Although the gun should be accurate enough that that won't necessarily need to be a problem either. But I don't mind. Kill most tanks as well. I see. So far, I'm pretty impressed with it. I guess the question then becomes, like, how expensive is it going to be to produce? Are we going to be able to build a lot of them, or only a few of them? AT and a beach assault? Oh, that's not necessarily true. Anti-tank guns are a lot cheaper than tanks. And they're a lot easier to emplace in a fixed position than a tank. Same issue going forward. It doesn't like to turn at low speeds, but that's an issue with Sprocket, I think, more than it is an issue with the tank. And it does cross the large trench line with a fair bit of speed. Yeah, AT guns can be bigger for than tanks. That's true. It can be a lot more efficient. And it to be less useful after. You may very well have a point. It also depends on how long you plan on using that fight, or using that tank inland. There are some vehicles that, like the LVTs, in U.S. service during World War II, there was a big debate as to whether or not to use those things inland past the beach. And some commanders thought that the tanks would be very useful for carrying the fight inland, and others considered them to be giant moving targets. And not useful at all other than for transporting troops from ship to shore. But this is definitely more of a tank than it is an amphibious vehicle, but it can be carried, but there was no requirement that it needed to be amphibious. Only that it could be carried in an amphibious landing craft. To which the 15-ton weight meets that requirement. And it doesn't over-rev. And it's got a decent top speed of 47 kilometers per hour. So far, I think that this design and the M21 Chimera are the best two that I've seen so far. Or the M21, whatever it was called. So this was the R4A21. For me personally, I like these two because I like to have a little bit, just a little bit of armor protection. These are my two favorites so far. But the Frog is not bad either. And this was a pretty good assault gun. Yeah, the Privateer. All right, let's move on. Okay, this is interesting. So this is Roshando, and this is a turreted vehicle. Interesting. It is very, very low profile, I have to say. The armor is right at 30 millimeters, so it is protected from shell fragments. The gun mantlet is ridiculously thick. So the two versions are the same, just one looks more like a T64 and the other a Matilda suspension-wise? I see. Well, you also said that this one, the other one was up-armored. Oh, I see. It just adds the side skirts. Okay. Makes it a little bit heavier, but it's still under the weight requirements. Why don't we just do this one then? So this vehicle... Holy shit, that is a really fast-powered Traverse. Holy fuck. Granted, I can't imagine the turret weighs very much, considering how low to the ground it is. Okay. Mobility. We have the same engine. However, it appears it has the same transmission as well. Fuel capacity 250 liters. So 250 liters should give us roughly 260 kilometers-ish. Okay. Not bad. Firepower, what do we got? We got 40 rounds of APHE, so that's good. 20 degrees of gun depression, which is ridiculously good. Far more than necessary. Let's see. Canon, 101 millimeters. Penetration to 54.1, and the APHE should have a little bit more, or should still meet the requirements. 2.3 seconds for the reload, for the base reload. Elevation rate 3.9 seconds. This should be very, this should get onto target very quickly, without difficulty. By chances, I made it that way to balance the gun. Gunner is a bit cramped. So is the driver, holy shit. Hello? Alright, well, it looks like everybody is kind of crammed into this damn thing. Not ideal. But it does seem to work. This reminds me a lot of the turret arrangement on the HSTVL. Okay. Oh, I should have checked. What was the accuracy? Not great. Not great accuracy at 100 meters. But it is a very short-barreled cannon. It's at least getting the 95% burn off, though. Light HE support thingy. Well, it is meant to support troops on the beach by taking out bunkers and anti-tank guns, so it doesn't need to be, like, ludicrously accurate. I can forgive low anti-tank performance, because you really don't need very much in order to take out an AT gun. Or a bunker. Alright, accuracy I would say is good enough. How's the mobility? Very good mobility-wise. Holy shit, this thing is fast. Wow. I beat the King Tiger scenario in this with no losses? Jesus. Yeah, it handles slopes no problem. Very speed, big fist. Yeah. Alright, let's see how the suspension handles the ride. Or handles a rough ride. Handles that, no problem. And it's handling this with virtually no problem either. I mean, the crew is not particularly comfortable to begin with, so... the fact that the vehicle rides pretty nice is very good. Yeah, it is a bit stiff, but... the crew is already, like, having a living hell inside this vehicle to begin with, so... what's a little bit of a bumpy ride? Cramped, we prefer the term cozy. What are we, the British? Alright. Top speed test. It is over revving, but we're doing 93 kph. This thing is a fucking speed demon. I think this is the fastest tank we've seen so far. By far. Wow! Yeah, definitely the fastest tank we have seen so far. I would say this is a very unique design. I really like the flat turret design. However, the crew efficiency is not great, and the fact that the engine will over rev and kill itself is not good. I spent a bit of time file editing the fluff pieces. I see. It looks really good. Like, overall, like, this looks really good. Very unique design. I feel like if there was just a higher weight limit, or if you were going to make this thing, if you're going to make this thing 15 tons, you could easily make this a very, very solid tank. For under 10 tons, though, I think this is the best vehicle we've seen so far. So what I think we'll do is what I think overall is we're going to give a winner for the 15-ton requirement, and we're going to give a winner for the 10-ton requirement. Now, what do you win? You win a pat on the back. And in lore, we'll say that those two vehicles are adopted for service. Or are adopted for further development and tests. Okay. Where the angled lower front plate takes away space even when you don't angle it. So I had to make it this shape? I see. Okay. Next up, we have the K65 E1 Flea. This is an interesting design. Huh. The exhausts are in the side of the hull, above the suspension. Let me, yeah, let me reload it. That looks swanky. Yeah. 14.96. Okay. Let's see here. What is the armor like? Oh, wow. Frontal armor is very heavy. Definitive best tank. I'm not saying that any of these are the best tanks. What I'm saying is that there are some of these vehicles that are definitely more capable than others, because we're basing whoever wins, quote unquote, off of two things: capability and adherence to requirements. The ones that that adhere closest to the requirements, but are the most capable, are the ones that are going to be adopted for service. But I'm also going to say that there's a 15-ton winner and there's a 10-ton winner. Because designing a vehicle for 10 tons is a heck of a lot more difficult than designing one for 15 tons. And designing one for 15 tons is already difficult enough. 50 degrees per second turret traverse. We'll see how that shakes out. Clutch braking. Okay. So in order to save space, they went with the clutch braking powertrain. I'm also really looking forward to when we get more options here instead of clutch braking. Okay. A64 T1. I think that's the... Yeah, these are the same tracks as on the Dolphin. And this is a turreted vehicle. 15-liter V6. So it's got its own engine. About 437 horsepower. And it's got the same transmission. Okay. And it's got 226 liters of fuel. So about 158 kilometers of range. It's definitely by no means the highest that we've seen, but it's not bad either. Like that's more than sufficient. And keep in mind, that's like 158 kilometers in a straight line. That's not going to count all the maneuvering you're going to do. All right. 40 rounds of APHE. What's the penetration like? Oh, it's the same gun. Alrighty. Now, what's the crew like? So the commander is also the loader. And then the gunner, the radio man, and the driver are all crammed in there with not the most ideal amount of crew space. But that's sort of that's the major trade-off you get here. I get the feeling that whatever vehicle we're going to adopt, we're going to need to like put a height restriction on the crewman. So like you can't be above like 5'4" or something. So, I think for our case of an amphibious landing, you could definitely, like, for our case and our requirements, there are definitely better tanks than others. Is there going to be something that's best at everything? No. But you can have vehicles that are more capable than others. For sure. Okay. Alrighty. I don't need to test the accuracy of the gun because we already know those. We already know that. Turret traverse is pretty good. penetration, yeah, all of the characteristics befitting the gun are pretty much well known. And the gun depression seems to be just fine. Handled the slope without any issues. Boy. So far, so good. I would say the biggest problem with this vehicle so far is the crew, like the amount of how cramped the crew is, and the fact that the commander is overworked, and the issue of the fact that it doesn't have a twin transmission, it's clutch braking. So the vehicle cannot turn on the spot. Alright. See how well it does. I like the... Yeah, I do like the look. The look is very cool. So it does over-rev at the higher gears, and it does have a tendency to angle off to the right. So about 48 kph. That's pretty good, especially for the amount of armor that it's got on it. But the over-revving is a problem. Yeah. Overall, a very cool design. I really like the look of it. Okay. Whew. All right. Moving on. We've got the Shekelton Amphibious Tank Prototype, KBG, by KBG Innovations. So this appears to be a turreted tank destroyer, or a non-turreted tank destroyer. Yeah, right. You gotta load it twice. Yeah, okay, so it is just under the weight limit. And then, let's see here. What do we got for armor protection? You know, a fairly decent amount. For a 30mm hull. That's not bad armor protection-wise. Although the sides are 10mm, so the sides and rear, or at least the side of the hull here, is going to be vulnerable to enemy fire. That could probably be fixed by hanging shirtsen, like side skirts, putting up side skirts along the flank of the vehicle, that so that whatever is coming through those side skirts is gonna have to pass through those first and then hit the hull. And the hull is angled downwards slightly. Okay. Mobility, what do we got? Twin transmission. Tracks. Alright, the suspension appears to be carried over from the Dolphin, but the tracks are definitely different. I tried the side skirts, and it got in the way of the suspension. I see. Okay. 10-ton conventional at SPG? We'll see. Alright, so it looks like the engine itself has been designed specifically for this. That is a really high rev low. 412 horsepower at 27.5 horsepower per ton. Transmission is completely redesigned to work with the engine. Internal fuel, 300 liters with an extra 130 liters capacity. Yeah, I feel like what you could do with this vehicle is maybe move the... Well, actually, this vehicle doesn't have any return rollers. I was going to say, if it had return rollers, you could move the return rollers up. But that's fine. This will be fine. Okay. I'm not particularly seeing the second item that's copied over. I know the gun is copied over. There's not a turret, and I'm pretty sure that the hull is not copied over. So the vehicle doesn't meet that requirement, that there needs to be at least 2 things copied over, but we'll give it a test. Alright, crew. Yeah, this by far has the most internal space for the crew that we've seen so far. 5-man crew with everybody pretty comfortable except for the driver and the radioman. All right. Well, let's give it a test. And I should say that the traverse rates are pretty good. Especially the elevation speed. The elevation speed is very, very good. Read the title, Eugenio. You clicked on the video. Or you clicked on the stream. Oh. Those sprocket and idlers are rather small. Up to 15-degree slope. Slope. Very nice. It messed them up? Okay. Well, tell me what the values are and I'll adjust them to what they should be. Because that's another thing I've noticed with some of these suspensions. Do you know what the diameters are? If you don't... Oh shit, really? It doesn't have the... It just says Enlisted patch? Fucking goddamn it. I hate YouTube's system so much. I forgot to change the title. Or well, no, I didn't forget to change the title. What I forgot to do was set the... set Restream to look at the correct title. Whoops. There we go. Oh, great. I have to restart the whole broadcast. Alright, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. It's too late, and there's only about an hour left in the stream. Fuck it. Alright. Well. I like how nobody said anything about it being the wrong title until now, but okay. Get off of me, tree. Okay. Well, top speed isn't amazing, but that could be an issue with the sprocket wheel being too small. You know, the vehicle also doesn't like to turn while I'm driving, but again, that could be an issue with sprocket. Okay. Yeah, only 36 kph. I mean, that's not bad by any means. We've seen vehicles with about that speed before, but those vehicles also had turrets, so not a bad vehicle by any means. But I think it does need some refinements. We'll keep an eye on it. Okay, moving on. Let's load this twice. Okay, so it's a little thin up at the front for this vehicle. This looks like a mini Tiger. I think the frontal plate could be a little bit thicker. Personally, but yeah, mini Porsche Tiger. And that's weird. Shouldn't be doing that. Ah. Okay, so it appears that the ammunition has not been changed, but we'll get to that in a moment. Powertrain, twin transmission. Cromwell 1 tracks. I wonder if these tracks were taken from the Cromwell vehicle. Definitely, it's got a new engine. So 1,016 horsepower. Pretty solid. And it's got the same transmission from the previous vehicle. So it's got about 214, or I'm sorry, it's got about 180 liters of fuel. Based it off a Cromwell hull and germified it. I see. 180 liters of fuel. How far will we get with 180 liters of fuel? About 130 kilometers. That's okay. It's not great, but it's not any worse than we've seen so far. Firepower. The elevation rate is a little low. But it does appear to have the same gun. Yeah. 7.92 degrees of gun depression is not bad. And the Canon is well proven. And then the crew. The crew appears to have been the priority here in terms of internal space, which is good. It's good. The crew is going to operate at a much greater efficiency, except the radio man. Fuck him. He's there, but he's not particularly comfortable. You tried to base the engine off the Merlin as close as possible. I see. Alright, what's the traverse speed? Not bad. Okay. Yeah, that traverse speed is pretty good. Elevation is a little slow, but that's not horrible. Vehicle handles well. The big problem with this vehicle is the ammunition capacity. It's only got 30 rounds, they're all in the turret, and half of them are AP. So you only have 15 APHE rounds of the 40 that were required. Not great. That so far, to me, outside of the frontal hull being a little thin, is the biggest issue I'm seeing here. Mobility-wise, it seems to work just fine. All right. The vehicle seems to have a very smooth ride, though. All things considered. All right, let's take this thing out for a speed test. All right. Here we go, fellas. Let's see what this thing's top speed is. Ooh, it is over revving. Yeah, so about 58.5 kph, and it is over revving, so it's damaging the engine. Yeah. It is damaging the engine. Which is a problem. Okay. So overall, this is a decent design, but it doesn't quite meet the armor requirements of 30 millimeters or greater on the hull. And it also it's the transmission that you're using with it doesn't work with the engine. I would say the engine needs to be dramatically less powerful in order for that transmission to work. The engine is too powerful for the transmission. If you want to keep that transmission, you're going to have to make it less powerful. Okay, next up, Type S89 1P. Interesting rear turret design. What do we got for armor protection? A decent amount, due to the angles involved. Yeah, that's not bad armor. That is not bad. Alright, what is the turret traverse? Oh, I should probably reload it again. There we go. Turret traverse is 19.8 degrees per second. Let's see. Mobility. Twin transmission, good. And the tracks appear to be carried over. Yes, the tracks do appear to be carried over for the most part. Here's engine and tracks, okay. And it looks like, yeah, it looks like the transmission has been modified. So here's to hoping that it doesn't over-rev now. 430 liters fuel capacity, so... So just over 300 kilometers of fuel capacity. That's very good. That'll take this thing far. Let's see, elevation rate is 3.8 degrees per second. Very good. And it has negative 14 degrees of gun depression. Very impressive. Very, very impressive. And the gun is well balanced, too. You could see that there is a only a sliver right here of blue. That turquoise blue line determines how well balanced the gun is. I believe that says that it's slightly breech heavy, but not by any reasonable amount. Okay, good accuracy, good penetration. 4.23 base reload time. Crew. Oh wow. And the crew is very comfortable inside. Very nice. The radio man is a little bit cramped, but again, screw him. The requirement was to have a radio man, not to make him comfortable. All right, let's test out the accuracy of the gun. First shot, no problem. And it does have the appropriate ammunition capacity for the APHE rounds. Well, it hit all of the targets I shot at, no problem. The vehicle is mobile, and it handles well. It accelerates to a decent speed. And it's handling these slopes like nobody's business. Very, very nice. So far, the suspension seems to be handling this very well. And with a little bit of speed, it can get over the wide trench. Alright, let's go and test this thing's top speed. So far, this is one of the better all-round designs that we've seen. Alright. Top speed test, let's go. Good acceleration. And we have broken 70 kph. Very fast. Yeah, so we'll say about 70 kilometers an hour is its top speed. Overall, I think this is one of the best overall designs we've seen. Like, it's got armor, but it's not excessive, which means that the crew is rather comfortable. The mobility is phenomenal, and it doesn't over-rev the engine. The gun is not as powerful as the one that's already in service, but it's good enough. And for assaulting enemy beach defenses that are likely going to be lighter armored than a tank, it should be just fine. Overall, I would say this is an excellent infantry support vehicle and one of the best that we've seen so far. I think it balances everything pretty damn well. And then I think the VI vehicles were not actually submitted to the contest on purpose. Yeah. Although, hell, these two technically fit within the, well, actually, on second thought, I don't think they really do. Well, maybe they do. That gun, I think, is the same. Yeah, it is. Alright. Okay. Now, I would like, by the way, people, I would like to test these things in combat, but I'm not really going to be able to, I don't think. Just because we've only got one scenario that's mid-war, and there's nothing like an amphibious scenario available right now. Okay, frontal protection is pretty decent, but it is non-turreted. Powertrain, twin transmission. If you don't have a twin transmission on an SPG, then you're kind of screwing yourself. This is definitely its own track, I think. Yeah. Yeah, this is the same track. The gun is the same. We've already established that. The mounting, 10 degrees. Not bad. And then crew. How are we doing here for crew? Crew is reasonably comfortable. Like, it's not ideal, but they're not crammed in there in the same way that some of the designs have been. Okay. Mobility. What do we got for an engine? 30.6 liter V8. Alrighty. With, I believe that's the same engine as the Dolphin. Yeah, it's the same engine as the Dolphin. Transmission. What do we got here? So the transmission has been changed. But only the reverse gear has been adjusted. Okay. This reload's too quick for me to get around it. Yeah, the King Tiger scenario being the only scenario for mid-war is kind of an oversight, especially considering that the sandbox is only mid-war, and you can't change the scenarios. If you could change the scenarios from mid-war to early war to interwar, that kind of thing, World War I, like that would be fine. But these are all designed for mid-war, and there's only ever there's only that one scenario, so that's a big oversight on the developer's part, and something that I hope he addresses very soon. The vehicle feels light, but not Well, it feels hefty for a vehicle this light. And I think the rest angle on the suspension might be a bit high. Handle slopes, no problem though. Yeah, I agree, Vengineer, but you should also be able to build things at World War I, early war, mid-war, interwar periods if you want to. You should be able to just swap between them, and the fact that you can't right now is a pretty big oversight. Because in my personal opinion, you should be able to build whatever vehicle you want in the sandbox, and then take it into whatever scenario you prefer. Also, I think you should be able to adjust the era of whatever scenario you're in. So, like, you should be able to do late war vehicles on no tank land, or on no tanks land. Or fields with World War I. You know what I mean? Alright, I mean, so far this thing is impressive. It's fast and it's rather maneuverable. It's got the same gun as the Dolphin, so we're not too worried about that. Alright. Interesting placement of the sight, too. We're doing about 73 kph. That's pretty good. 35, 76, 77... 28. I'm gonna give this thing like a top speed of about 78 kph. Yeah, it's Doom sight. Yeah. Overall, not a bad vehicle. For an SPG, not bad. The low profile is going to help it with avoid being hit, because the AI tends to try and aim center mass of your vehicle. They tend to aim center mass on your vehicle, and having a low profile means that their shots often will miss over the top of you. Oh yeah, so in general, I very much like this one. This is the KT-14 TD Strangler, and then here's another one called the Mad Dog. This is also 14.97. Actually, let's reload here real quick. Yeah, 14.97 tons. Although, I wonder what characteristics this shares, because it clearly doesn't share the same gun. The upper front plate is very, very thickly armored. Well, not so much thick, but it's well angled, I should say. It's a very compact vehicle, too. Which means that the crew is probably going to be very cramped. It is tracks, and it's the same tracks and engine. I see. Okay, yeah, so the tracks are the same. And then the engine is also the same. What's the transmission like? Okay. And how are we doing for fuel? So, 347 liters of fuel will get you... We'll get you 243 kilometers. Alright. Not bad. And then firepower, what do we got here? So we've got a clearly different mounting system and a different gun. 5.9 degrees of gun depression. Not amazing, but not bad. Canon, we have a 77mm Canon, but with different barrel thicknesses. Like, it's been rebalanced essentially. It does have a longer barrel, so it is higher velocity slightly. Yeah, it looks like those are standing gun shields for the ENGs. It's kind of clever. I like that. It looks like you've got kind of like a fortress up on top of the vehicle, which is pretty cool. To make it look infantry friendly, I see. Well, I could easily see guys riding on top of the vehicle as it was coming inland, and shooting over the sides, so to say, or providing, you know, like local air defense or just suppression fire. Yeah, the ASMG poking into the commander's back. Let's see here, 80%, 70%. So the gunner is also the loader in this case. Let's see, radio man. Okay. Alrighty, so the commander and the gunner, he at least has a lot of space dedicated to him. Driver, not so much, and not so much for the radio man either. Okay. So how does it handle? Actually, what's the accuracy? Yeah, very accurate. 28.7 millimeters at 100 meters is pretty damn good. Oh. Where is... Okay, for some reason or another, I am unable to... Oh, there we go. Now the gun is traversing. Oh, I know what's going on. The, because the gunner is not above a certain frequency, or is not above a certain, efficiency level, he cannot traverse and elevate the gun at the same time. However, there are 44 rounds of APHE in this thing, so... Not bad. The vehicle seems a little bit unbalanced. I think it's just because the tracks are so short. I mean, the gun is over double as long as the vehicle is. But the vehicle does not feel stable. It is a very compact design, were it not for the massive cannon barrel. Whoop. The suspension does seem to work, although the crew is like bouncing up and down like crazy, and it does lose a lot of speed doing this. And its trench crossing potential, I imagine, is going to be rather poor at low speeds. Yeah, it's just going to get stuck. By much I could? Yeah. This strikes me as sort of like a light airborne tank destroyer more than it strikes me as a vehicle that we would use in an amphibious assault. It's a very interesting idea, and I like the shape. I really do, especially the frontal hull is very ballistically efficient at stopping rounds. But as far as amphibious assaults are concerned, I'm not sure if this is suitable. Okay. Let's see how fast it could go. Well, it's definitely not over-revving. That's good. I probably shouldn't have done that. I'll add an extra couple kilometers an hour onto whatever speed we get here. So I would say 58 kph is its top speed. Which, for such a compact vehicle, with as good armor as it has, that's very good. You could pack I imagine you could pack quite a few of these things into a landing craft. With the hull being so compact, you could just elevate the gun to stack these things in behind each other. So, yeah. Overall, I'm very impressed with this vehicle. I don't know if Kat's here still, but so far I'm very impressed. Alright, fellas, I think that's actually going to do it all. Do it for today's stream. What do we think? Kat, you're the one who originally wrote this prompt. Which one of these would you have to pick? Like, yeah, let's get... I like Venji's idea. Let's do top 3. For me, I would say for an SPG... Yeah, I like the Privateer as well. And the Veng. Okay, so Privateer and the Veng. And the green one. Like the dark green one? Or the... The Soviet-looking one? Oh, the, this one? Oh, the R4, the R421. Yeah, that was a good one, too. Here we are. So, Privateer, the Veng, and the R4A were Kat's top 3. I would say, if I had to choose... I really like the Type S89. I think this is just a very well balanced vehicle. It could do a little bit of everything. I really like how well balanced that was. I really liked the R4 as well. My biggest issue with the R4 was the crew. The crew was very, very cramped. Yeah, and there were some really good designs here. Like, just because I'm not putting you in the top 3 does not mean your design was horrible, by any means. Like, these were some really great designs, and they were really out of the box. I liked almost all of them. Yeah, the R4, the Privateer, and the Type S89 are my top 3. As far as tank destroyers are concerned, I really liked the Strangler. I think the Strangler is a solid design and could be worked into something usable. From a just pure aesthetics, or from a pure, like, out-of-the-box standpoint, I really like the Mad Dog as well. The Liberator was odd, yeah. But it wasn't a bad design, per se. I think the crew was a little overworked here, but they were also under some pretty strict requirements, so... I could see this thing being a decent SPG for just dealing with enemy bunkers. I quite liked Roshando's submission just because of how crazy out of the box it was. But for all practical purposes, I would rather have something more heavily armored with that gun than something lighter armored with that gun. Although it is under 10 tons, so honestly I think this was the best of the 10-ton submissions. In my personal opinion. You can look at the Seahorse. Okay. Alrighty. So next design, I imagine, is going to be an IFV of some sort, or an APC. IFV/APC is what I would guess. But yeah, I quickly want to thank everybody who submitted designs today. They were all super cool and very much out of the box. Some of them were definitely better than others, but that by no means denigrates people's attempts. Everybody really put some thought into their designs, and it was very clear. And it was really interesting to see what everybody came up with. Rich D, mine was the cutest. Yeah, alright, fair enough. I'll give that to you. He's pretty big-brained. I'm writing the prompt because I haven't decided on requirements, but you'll be basing it off the tank you made this time instead of one of mine. Okay. Alright, I like that idea. Yeah, so don't throw away your designs here. You may need to repurpose that hull for something else. So if you have these designs, hold on to them. But yeah. All of these were very, very good designs. I want to give props to everybody who managed to get their vehicle under 15 tons to begin with. That's difficult to do, to start with, and then to design something even better than that. Like, credit where credit is due, that is not an easy thing to accomplish. So, big props to everybody who submitted something. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Did you guys find this interesting at all? Like, should we continue to keep doing this? Because I think at the very minimum it gives people something to do with Sprocket. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna talk to the dev and see if we can come up with some prizes. Like, I could do like giveaway keys or something, maybe. The thing is, you've already got Sprocket if you're designing something, but maybe you could get keys that you can give away to somebody else as like a gift to a friend. I don't know, maybe once more stuff becomes available, I can, either that, or here's an idea. Maybe, just maybe, I can convince the dev to put your design into the base game. I think that would be pretty fucking cool. I can talk to the dev and see if he would be up for that.
Shut up, bless God, and get fruitful. Woo!
Game is rigged. Has resubbed for 2 months. Thank you for the Prime sub, man. I love your name, by the way. Game is rigged. Yeah, let me talk to the dev and see if he would be up for that. Because at the very minimum, it would help him save time. With designing new enemies, and it would keep things fresh for the game. Because I think if we're designing these vehicles based around some balanced requirements, that could be something really, really cool. I mean, I could easily see like the Type 89 SPH or the Type S89. I could see this being an excellent vehicle to put into the game. So, hey there, Solon. So yeah, I'm gonna talk to the dev and see what he thinks about me holding some design competitions, maybe like once a month or something. That would involve picking a vehicle to add to the game. Alrighty, well, I want to again thank everybody who came out to check this out. This was super fun, for me at least, being able to see what all of your designs were. Maybe what I'll do is for the next prompt, I'll design a vehicle. And then we'll have, maybe in the future, what I think we'll do, we're going to refine this process a little bit. In the future, I think we should have a panel of judges who would be willing to join VC with me. And figure out what vehicles, what vehicles fit what requirements and so on. But we'll see. Anyways, thank you guys all for coming. That's gonna be all for me, I think. Yeah. So I will be back on Tuesday, everybody, with more something. Maybe War Thunder, maybe Sprocket, I don't know. And I'm gonna talk to the dev this weekend. I'll shoot him a message and ask him, hey, would you be willing take in some balanced designs for the game's enemies? Because I think that would be a way cooler. Prize than simply giving away extra keys. And that way it doesn't hurt his revenue that he earns from the game. Anyways, fellas, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next stream. Have a great evening, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you later.